The fight against the educational policy, the fight against the labor codes, and the fight against these farm bills are not separate. They are one and the same fight. We are fighting against the corporate grabbing of the whole wealth and capital that we have in our country. Our labor capital, everything is being sneezed by these our corporates. So with this spirit, we decided to have you in with us, and we are thankful that from the fields you have given us time. Dinesh Ibrol, who have been the convener of the Nation for Farmers and have been in the movement. We have been hearing you. Biju Krishnan, we have been hearing you. We have been hearing AIK's, All India Kishan Sabha, and we are with you, and though not physically there in the border, but we are with you in the fields. We are feeling that we are all in solidarity with each other. And P. Sainath, whom we have been hearing for years, have been fighting for the farmers' cause, have been raising out data with respect to these. And we have learned from your findings, and we have been organizing people around that in our campuses. Our campuses are closed for the time being, but our minds are not closed, and our activities and our movements are not closed. So with these words, I welcome all of you, and I hand over the chairing of the session to our Professor Rotun Khashnobish, who has also been a fighter and a co-traveler and we all enjoyed the camaraderie of this fight, and so all our comrades. And I also welcome the people who have been here in this web rally here and who are watching in the YouTube. We all are fighting not only for the cause of education, because it's not a separated subject. All these are related. So we welcome, and I ask Professor Rotun Khashnobish, our respected Rotunda, to moderate. Yes. Over to you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Ishita, for a very generous introduction to me. That I had been with the cause. Yes, I am with the cause. And I tell you, and this question I put to the experts who will speak on this particular issue, farm issue. In all the developed countries, consider Great Britain, consider in Asian areas Japan, or consider Germany or Great Britain, everywhere you will find that agriculture is being subsidized heavily. Why in India agriculture will not be subsidized as proposed by this government, this NDA government? This in fact invites discussion in the political economy of agriculture. I think in this discussion, in this seminar, the respected panelists will take this particular point in consideration, that why in all the developed countries agriculture will remain subsidized, and why in India the farmers will not get any subsidy. Why the issue is being proposed in such a way. So with this question in mind, I shall have to, I have some points to raise, which I will do definitely when my turn comes. But with this brief introductory remarks, question rather, that why Indian agriculture will not remain subsidized, I would request Comrade Biju Krishnan to speak first. And then Dinesh will speak. And thirdly, P. Sainath. He will be our third speaker. So this is the order. Comrade Biju Krishnan first. May I ask you?
Yes.
Biju? Yes.
Professor Ratan Khashnobish, Professor Ishita, and dear friends. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers for holding a webinar on the three farm acts and the protests that have come up in a massive way against these anti-farmer legislations. I would mainly speak about what is the reason of this kind of protests, and also go a bit back into the last 6 years, how the farmers have been made very attractive promises and been betrayed on each one of those. And also briefly about the manner of the protest, the nature of protest. I think in 2014, when BJP and Narendra Modi faced the elections, already there was an agrarian crisis. There was a lot of charges of corruption against the then Congress-led UPA 2 government. There was increasing unemployment and price rise. Making use of all these issues, Narendra Modi and BJP managed to create a narrative that if BJP was elected to power, then the agrarian crisis would just go away. The farmers' incomes would be doubled. There would be at least 50% more than cost of production paid to the farmers for their produce. Subsidies, the question which Professor Ratan was mentioning, there would be increased subsidies for agriculture, and inputs like seed, fertilizers, etc. would be provided at cheap rates. There would be loans provided at low interest rates. Har khet ko pani, water to every fields. And if there is crop loss, then there would be insurance and compensation for the farmers. Literally, the wish list of farmers' organizations, except for maybe land rights and such issues, the BJP manifesto had it all. In 2014, once they won the election, the government was formed. Within a week, we visited the agriculture minister and requested that the Prime Minister's oft-repeated promise of providing at least C2 plus 50, at least 50% more than the cost of production as the minimum support price, be implemented. The agriculture minister, without any hesitation, said that, why are you taking it seriously? Those are only election time promises. Every political party makes promises during election for gaining votes. Those are only promises that were made to gain votes. It cannot be implemented. Within some days, the All India president of the BJP, Amit Shah, made this statement that they were Chunavi Jumlas, and the government went to Supreme Court, filed an affidavit that this cannot be implemented. So the betrayal begins quite early in the day, and by 2014 December, the government comes with a land acquisition ordinance, which with a land acquisition ordinance, which literally would promote corporate land grab. It is against this that the different organizations of the peasantry, agriculture labor, the Adivasis, Dalit section, fishing community, all of them came together to form an issue-based unity called the Bhumi Adhikar Andolan, or the land rights movement. It was on two issues: for land and forest rights and against indiscriminate corporate land grab. So the struggles built by the Bhumi Adhikar Andolan led to the BJP government having to withdraw this ordinance, though they made 3 attempts to push it through the parliament. And this was probably the first defeat that the Narendra Modi-led BJP government had to face as a result of a united issue-based movement. After this, we also had issues around the demand for remunerative prices for farmers and freedom from indebtedness. Independent struggles by the All India Kisan Sabha in different states. You must have witnessed in Maharashtra, in Rajasthan, Himachal, Bihar. Every state had protests around these demands. You must have also witnessed the Kisan Long March from Nasik to Mumbai, where thousands of farmers marched more than 186 kilometers to pressurize the Maharashtra BJP government to accept the demands, and they had to give a written assurance on all the 12 demands that were put forward by the farmers. Then we find the demonetization decision in 2016 November, and that has accentuated the distress that the rural masses have faced, especially the farmers, and a lot of farmers growing perishables, fruits, vegetables, flowers, etc., suffered hugely due to the demonetization. In the continued process of the united struggles that were going on, we found, inspired by the struggles in Maharashtra and Rajasthan, the farmers of Madhya Pradesh also came out in protests against the low prices for their produce. And the BJP government there, led by Chauhan, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, fired at the farmers, and 6 farmers were shot dead. They were not farmers affiliated to the All India Kisan left-supported, any of the left-supported organizations. Neither were they farmers part of the opposition parties. They all were probably sympathizers of the BJP and the Sangh Parivar. But what was their demand? The crop they were growing was garlic. The farmers claimed 33 rupees to 35 rupees was the cost of production per kg. The BJP government claimed it was 27 rupees per kg. Let us take it as 27 rupees per kg. About 5,000 to 5,600 kgs quintals are produced per hectare. And you see the kind of travesty in the state. The farmers were getting 1 rupee a kilo in the Neemach market from the private traders. And you find on the same day, the Reliance Fresh is selling garlic at 147 rupees a kg. The farmers growing pulses like arhar in northern Karnataka and other semi-arid regions were getting only around 35 to 40 rupees per kg, while the consumers were paying up to 220 rupees a kg per kilo of arhar dal, sold mostly by Adanis, Ambanis, Tatas, Birlas, and ITC. Huge profits for the corporates, while the farmers were not getting remunerative prices. So when the Mandsaur incident took place, another issue-based unity called the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, where more than 200 organizations of farmers came together to build an issue-based unity demanding remunerative price for crops and freedom from indebtedness. From amidst the struggle front itself, through a Kisan Parliament, 2 bills were developed, and these bills were placed in the Parliament as private member bill, one seeking assured remunerative price for crops and another for freedom from indebtedness. But the government just has not bothered to look into any of these issues. And we have seen in 2019 elections, using an ultra-nationalistic campaign and with huge support from the corporate media and funding from the corporate sector, the BJP government manages to come back to power in 2019. But each one of the promises made have been betrayed. The insurance policy, the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, Comrade Sainath speak more on it. All India Kisan Sabha raised from the beginning, it is a huge scam. Thousands of crores in terms of premium given to the companies, Reliance included. And while crop loss happens, farmers are not getting any benefit. So this, even as the state of Gujarat, BJP ruled Gujarat, Prime Minister's own state, has also decided recently to withdraw from the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Regarding the minimum support price, farmers have not been getting the minimum support price for most of the crops. For many of the crops, it's just notional because there is no procurement. And we also find a situation wherein the indebtedness is increasing, malnutrition is increasing in our country, and in all those issues also the government has miserably failed. Unemployment was the highest in 45 years, though the promise was 2 crore jobs would be created. NREGA was systematically being starved of funds and sought to be dismantled. It is in such a circumstance of unemployment, poverty, and a situation wherein effort to privatize all the public sector undertakings has been going on, that the pandemic. And when the pandemic, almost 3 month period, the government did nothing about it. It was more interested in creating a communal polarization around issues like the Citizenship Amendment Act, the Article 370, and so on. And you had full-fledged communal rights after the defeat that the BJP suffered in the Delhi assembly elections. You also had efforts to indulge in horse trading and removal of the elected government in Madhya Pradesh. The red carpet was laid out for American President Donald Trump in a mega event called Namaste Trump, when the whole world was talking about physical distancing and containing the pandemic. Suddenly, on March 24th, the government comes with the lockdown. And without any consultation with the state government, without any consultation with political parties, this was a time when the farmers of India were expecting a bumper harvest. 11% more acreage of wheat compared to last year was there. It was April, May is the harvesting time for wheat, corn in many areas, different pulses, chana, cauliflower, different fruits also, potato, etc. But the manner in which the lockdown was implemented, we all saw the exodus of workers from workplaces back to their villages, the biggest exodus post-partition in India. Millions of workers left to fend for themselves. That is the situation we had. In such a circumstance, all sections lost incomes. Farmers lost huge income losses in every crop that has been witnessed. So the demands of the organizations of farmers, agriculture, labor were that there should be an income support of at least 10,000 per month for the poor farmers and agriculture, labor and workers of our country. Along with that, there must be a loan waiver for the farmers. There must be 200 days of work or unemployment wages for agriculture workers if work is not provided. Food security with, other than grain, all essentials required by a family, like the Kerala LDF government is giving, a food kit with about 20 different essential that a family would require, and different kinds of social security, other than the proper health facilities being provided to the common masses of our country. The government has done nothing in this regard. No loan waivers for farmers, but 68,000 crores during lockdown has been waived off for willful defaulters like Mallyas, Mehul Choksi, Ramdevs, and different Modis who have cheated the people of our country. And it is in such circumstance, all of a sudden, in first week of June, the government comes with 3 acts. This is not at all any demand from the below. And today, I'm sure Dinesh would go more in detail into the 3 acts. The 3 acts, to put it simply, though it has very attractive names, they have a penchant for naming things very attractively, with usually the Prime Minister's, either Prime Minister or Deen Dayal Upadhyay's names attached to each of these schemes. These 3 acts also are attractively named, especially what these 3 acts are, what are the implications of these 3 acts. Very simply to be put, the first act is literally to finish off the regulated markets in our country and promote corporate profiteering. Second is the changes in the Essential Commodities Act, which literally declare that rice, wheat, oilseeds, pulses, potato, onion, and such essentials are no longer essentials, and it is an act to promote hoarding and black marketing, corporate hoarding and black marketing. Unlimited storage and can be ensured. It is going to lead to price rise for the common masses. Third is promotion of corporate contract farming, and where the farmers would be forced to grow whatever the corporate companies want them to grow, and also in times of any dispute, the farmers are having they cannot take recourse to the courts of our country. It was entirely under the bureaucrats. And this kind of an unequal system they have been trying to create. It is against this that the massive resistance have been going on across the country. And from when these ordinances were brought, the ordinances were burnt in more than 3,600 places across the country within a day of its promulgation. And once the acts have been passed in an undemocratic manner by disallowing any dissent or even voting or moving of statutory resolutions, we saw how 8 members of parliament were also suspended, including the Kisan Sabha Joint Secretary, Comrade K.K. Ragesh, and the CITU Secretary, Comrade Elamaram Karim. So this is the manner in which these acts have been passed. Very clearly today, when you look at the developments between 2014 till now, it looks like the Adanis and the Ambanis of our country have preempted these acts. Between 2014 and 2020, in different places, huge stock holding capacities are being developed by the Adanis. If you look at, it is not that these 3 acts have come suddenly emerged in the mind of Narendra Modi. The WTO has systematically been pressurizing India to cut agriculture subsidies, food subsidies, and withdraw from public stockholding. This was articulated by the Shantakumar Commission, which was set up by the Narendra Modi government, the last Narendra Modi government. And that is being given legal sanctity, sanction through these 3 acts. Also, the protest has been against the Electricity Act, which would totally privatize electricity and end the system of subsidizing electricity for the poor and the farmers of our country. So in a big way, the protest has been built up. The government is making all efforts to try and portray it as only a Punjab-specific issue. Yesterday, the Prime Minister made an attack. Initially, they said they cannot, that it is the Khalistanis who are out in protest. Later, when that did not stick, they went on to say it is the China and Pakistan are behind the protests. Later, urban Naxals and also the Tukde gang. Today, the only Tukde gang in our country are Amit Shah and Narendra Modi. Everyone is very clear on that. And you see the latest attack of the government. Yesterday, Narendra Modi has made this claim that there are no APMCs in Kerala and no mandis in Kerala. Why are there no protests in Kerala? Why don't you start a movement there? In a veiled attack on the All India Kisan Sabha, which is part of these struggles, and on the LDF government. The Prime Minister either is totally ignorant about the agrarian scenario in Kerala, or is willfully resorting to deceit to mislead the people of our country. Kerala predominantly is a plantation crop economy with crops like tea, coffee, different spices, pepper, cardamom, nutmeg, etc., and coconut, cashew, rubber, and so on. And each of these have been governed by the commodity boards under the control of the central government. Under the 30 years of neoliberal economic policy, all these commodity boards have literally been rendered ineffective by defunding, and that has led to further crisis for the farmers. The signing of Indo-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement and different free trade agreements, which both Congress and BJP-led governments have gone ahead with, that has led to also lead to cheap products being actually dumped into India, and farmers in Kerala have been affected badly. But you should note that the Kerala government procures paddy at 27.48, almost 900 rupees more than the centrally fixed minimum support price. It provides a royalty of 2,000 rupees per hectare for paddy farmers. Also, there are different kinds of subsidies for crops in Kerala per hectare. And you also have the panchayats adding in support, coming in support of the farmers through subsidies. Other than that, recently the Kerala government has also announced a base price for 16 vegetables, some fruits and tubers, and which is the first time in our country that any state has come with such. The cooperative sector has been in a big way promoted, and during the lockdown, a program called the Subiksha Kerala program, with around 3,600 crores set aside to strengthen agriculture in the state as well as promote cooperatives, as opposed to corporatized agriculture, is the way the LDF has been using. So this struggle which has been going on, we have seen how the government, using the worst forms of repression, how they initially tried to stop the farmers by putting huge shipping containers, digging trenches on the streets, using water cannons and tear gas, and also arresting a lot of leaders. But despite all that, the struggle, the movement has been growing in strength. The unity remains, and they are all united that these three acts and the changes to the Electricity Act has to be withdrawn. So this is a struggle in which a wide set of people have come together. There is the Nation for Farmers. You have, for the first time, from post the Long March in Maharashtra, with the initiative of Comrade Sainath and Dinesh and many others, teachers, students, youth, women, advocates, doctors, journalists coming out in support of the farmers. This is a never before kind of solidarity that is being built. The farmers' protests today are a historic protest, which probably independent India has not seen this kind of a protest. Huge sacrifices. Already more than 40 farmers amidst the struggle have martyred. The Prime Minister has not even bothered to pay respects to the farmers who died in this. They are continuing with their adamant stance because this government, like the poor Gujarat farmers warned us in 2014, is not implementing any Gujarat model. It is only implementing Modi, Adani and Ambani's Modani model of corporate loot of the land, water, forest and mineral resources of our country. It is our duty of every patriotic Indian to resist this model of corporate loot by making the greatest sacrifice. I am sure that all of you will stand united in this struggle. In this struggle, the working class has stood with the farmers. They are also facing big attacks with the labor rights being withdrawn, from work hours being increased from 8 to 12 hours, and different kinds of attacks. So it is necessary that we all unite and fight against this, while also putting forward an alternative, a pro-people alternative, which puts the people of our country first and build the broadest possible unity around that, so that we can also give a new direction to the politics of our country. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Comrade Viju. I think there would be some questions or maybe some interactions also. But before I go to that part, the second speaker, our second speaker is Dinesh Abrol. Comrade, please.
Professor Nathan, in case Viju has to leave, maybe 5 or 7 minutes of questions can be allowed now, so that he said that 7:30 he has to be in a meeting. If the chair,
that's a good idea.
Some questions to him, let's do that so that he's free, and then myself and Sainath.
That's a very good suggestion. I accept this one.
Yeah.
So would Ishita or anybody consult the chat box and any question which could be there for Biju Krishnan? Hello.
In the chat box, there's a question that I see. The question is from M. Teja Prakash, who asks, aren't the electricity and water subsidies a real environmental and economic crisis? Do we have an answer to that? So he questions the benefits that the farmers get and why should, I guess that's what he's asking.
Actually,
and the middleman facing the farmers. So he was.
Actually, I think that is the only question. So others, we are requesting others to please raise your question in the chat box quickly, because Comrade Biju is to leave for the struggle for a meeting. So please write down your questions. Yes, there, till now there is only one question.
Okay. That environmental issue,
yeah,
electricity, environment, and all that.
yeah.
If you have
Actually,
anything to add.
there are more capable people to address this question. Dinesh himself and Parthibo and others are there, but surely you see the excess use of water, or especially because electricity is subsidized, to cite that to end these subsidies. That is what the government is doing, even on the manner in which they are seeking to dismantle the agriculture produce marketing committees, that there are middlemen and these kind of excuse. Some of these, there is need for reform. There is need for more judicious use of some of these. That requires a lot of involvement by the government in providing proper scientific extensions to the farmers. Unfortunately, that is not happening. You're just trying to dump the baby with the bathwater, the entire system. And this, like in the case of the APMCs, here also the government is wanting to totally privatize the thing. And it, in such a circumstance, what happens is, in many of the regions, electrification has helped to increase the acreage under cultivation. That is something which you cannot forget. That has helped in strengthening the food security of our country. And otherwise, we had a situation where we were perpetually a food country, depended from a ship to mouth connectivity. There are these issues.
Someone should unmute.
Please mute. Please mute. Someone's, yeah, there's a
There are-
background noise.
Somebody has unmuted. Please.
Dinesh maybe look into more of those issues. Another question has come now, which I see. One is the middlemen, and another is, can doubling of agricultural income be possible through corporatization of farming under it?
Somebody has unmuted. Please mute it.
Please
Somebody
mute
has
your-
unmuted. Please.
There is another question, which is
Pradeep, I think you should mute everybody. You should mute everybody except the speaker. I think only the admin can do it.
Actually,
of
see,
industry.
I don't know if it is a deliberate thing, because in
I think it was deliberate.
Yeah,
It was
I
deliberate.
lecture in Ambedkar Periyar Study Circle in IIT, was disrupted by the Sanghi cyber goons. So in the Google Meet, that they have been trying to do it in different such.
Quite likely.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is also
So
what
I
I
don't know if
understand.
it's so.
But anyway, please continue. Comrade
Yeah,
Biju.
and can doubling of farmers' agriculture income be possible through corporatization? Absolutely no. That is no, it is not at all possible. It will only hugely increase the incomes of these corporate companies. There is absolutely no doubt. I'll give some examples here. How Kerala, the farmers in Kerala who are growing coffee, who get around 132 rupees per kg of coffee bean. There are some varieties, for instance, the Nestle Blend 37 is priced at 12,000 rupees a kg. You see the kind of profits that people may say that it requires processing and costs of processing, transport, and all that. But you see the difference between what the farmer gets and what the corporates are getting. I mentioned earlier the examples of Arhar Dal, farmers getting around 40 rupees and companies selling it at 220 rupees. and lakhs of tons of these pulses are consumed in our country. You see the kind of profits. The garlic example I mentioned, how farmers are getting at that time were getting only 1 rupee in the Neemuch market, and whereas the Reliance Fresh was selling at 147 rupees a kg. So this is a situation when there is a price crash, that is totally the burden is transferred to the farmers. When there is an improvement in prices, that doesn't accrue to the farmers also. The companies are earning in big way. How about middlemen fleecing the farmers? This is a question which has been asked. I think the middlemen, the system of middlemen is totally being portrayed only in a negative manner. A good number of the middlemen in the Haryana and Punjab are also from farming communities. There are different ways in which there are linkages with the farmers in terms of credit, in terms of inputs and so on. So that is also there. And the manner in which there are instances also in where there are fleecing or some kind of cheating of the farmers by middlemen, those have to be addressed. Those issues have to be addressed there. That doesn't mean you dump a time-tested system altogether. What is required is an expansion of the market system across the country and also expansion of procurement facilities. The government is announcing MSP, but nothing is being procured. In most of the crops, about 24 crops where MSP is announced, only in paddy, wheat, and some pulses here and there, and cotton maybe, some kind of procurement is happening. So it is notional in most of the crops. That is something which has to be addressed. And one last question I'll take, that is, what is the future? Is it possible to go on this kind of dharna indefinitely? And what can the world, other countries learn from the protests from these protests? Yeah. I think other countries are also having huge protests. We have seen protests in France, in different Latin American countries, in Greece, against the neoliberal policies that are being implemented. Even during the lockdown period, even during a pandemic, these protests have been going on. So I think, like Ishita mentioned in the beginning itself, that these struggles, our struggles are as much yours, your struggles are as much ours. We need to build these solidarities. That is required. We are getting huge solidarity from people across the world, different organizations coming out in support. That is there. And whether this movement can go on forever. The farmers have realized that the 3 acts are essentially to facilitate profiteering by Adanis and Ambanis of our land. They realize that the futures of the farming communities, the families, are endangered by these acts. That is why this struggle, if you see, you have entire families coming out. It's not just some politically minded activist farmers coming out in protest. You should, if anyone is in a position to come to these different protest sites where the people are living, it's the entire families who have come out in protest. That is realized, and this struggle is growing across the country. It is growing in every state. You're seeing new protests. A state like Uttarakhand, which never saw such huge protests after probably the struggle for a separate state, is seeing huge protests coming up there. Protests in Tamil Nadu, in Odisha, where even states like Odisha, where the left is not very strong, even there, a relentless set of struggles going on. It is in times of pandemic, when the fear of the disease, when the restrictions of the lockdown are there, that people are coming out on the streets. So the struggle will go on. Struggle will go on, and this government will have to bow down to the demands of the farmers. I think till then it will surely go on.
Thank you, Biju. Since there is no other question, I would request now Comrade Dinesh Abral to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ratan. Thank you.
20 minutes से some 20 minutes?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay.
I think it's now close to 19, is 18 or 20 in my laptop. So I'll keep that track. At 1940, I'll try to close it.
Please.
Okay. Thanks to Viju that we have the political context well laid out. But let me add to the political context the developments in the domain of economic policies as well as international trade, to which Ratan drew our attention considerably in terms of that this government doesn't want to subsidize. And as a result, these laws are being brought in. Let me elaborate by starting with that there has been a shift in the centre's agricultural policies. Merchandise export has fallen, but the exports of agricultural products rose. Like, for example, let me give you the exports of non-basmati rice rose by about 48% during Modi's regime. And I think I'm referring to the period of 16, 17, 18 or so. It's the same as the case with the other cereals also export. Even oilseeds export grew by 33%. So, if I do not extend and elaborate on more examples of exports which have occurred, the second point to be noted is that these exports occurred from actually some of the stocks which FCI collects on the basis of procurement. These are subsidized, obviously, and as a result, it has made us vulnerable in the Agreement on Agriculture Committee in the WTO, the World Trade Organization. Our argument for the subsidy regime used to be that we are a country where farming is a way of life, it's a subsistence agriculture, it is for food security, and it is not for commerce, it's not for exports. And this government, in a very irresponsible manner, and maybe it's a deliberate act on their part, so as they can tell the country and the farmers that now we are under pressure, and if you look at the from last year, from almost June onwards, in all the three meetings, there have been issues raised by United States itself, European Union, Australia, New Zealand, with regard to this change in the policy that you are exporting from the subsidized stocks itself. And I think we need to read this particular development as a radical departure from the past, number one. This particular economic policy change is not an ordinary one. This is going to be jeopardizing our whole stand, even on the peace clause, on our own food security, which we earned up in the Bali negotiations with a lot of effort of developing countries coming behind us, because they also felt, because they were food importing countries, and they also needed to build their food security. And as a result, we could manage to get, the peace clause, which was earned in 2013 as far as concerned. And you remember that when the new government took over, they were not in favor of actually universalization of public distribution system. They wanted to even reduce the scale and scope of the targeted public distribution system as such as was concerned. And that, if I read it in combination with what they have been doing in the terms of exports, I think together the message is very, very clear that they are actually moving away from all the relevant defenses that we have had within the Committee on Agreement on Agriculture in the WTO as far as concerned. So we are vulnerable hugely on the subsidy question. In the meanwhile, of course, the United States has, and the European Union has shifted to a lot of subsidies to the green box from amber box. Amber box was the one box where there used to be a scope for where the where the pressure for the reduction of subsidies was there. But now America's entitlement of the AMS, the aggregate measure of support, is huge, and as well as that they have been able to shift the subsidies to the green box, as well as another blue box where the decoupling of income support subsidies are also made available, and so on. In both the boxes, they have a lot of freedom. The developed capitalist countries are known to have a lot of freedom. But at the same time, we are opening up. If you look at the Indo-US bilateral were almost going to be inked, that's what Piyush Goyal announced when Trump was to come here in this country. And if you remember that particular thing in the context of India-China conflict, and because there's a political dimension to that, India was going to join the Quad as far as it's concerned. It joined the Quad. In fact, it joined the meetings of the Quad. And that political development goes along with the international level with the economic policy changes. And so altogether, while we may now we would be giving in on the pressures which are going to come from the US and EU and the Australia and New Zealand. The third point in that particular international context, I may add that it's not that only our rice, fat, wheat, and subsidies are in deep trouble, but our livestock subsidies, our dairy industries, also subsidies are in deep trouble. In fact, from the evidence that we have already, New Zealand and Australia, in fact, have raised this issue. In fact, this issue was raised even earlier by us when the RCEP negotiations were going on. And it was thanks to the struggle and the resistance put up by the farmers' movement, All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, that the government was forced not to sign RCEP as well. The free trade agreements are being signed, the bilaterals are being signed, so which would obviously jeopardize subsidies regime as far as it's concerned within the framework of the WTO. Having made that particular point, let me move on to the second point. In the meanwhile, we have also seen the Walmart and Amazon's presence growing in this country. In fact, if you look at many of these foreign companies, Walmart took over Flipkart as far as it's concerned, and that time the Joint Action Committee was formed on that particular question itself of the traders. In fact, even many of the small and medium scale traders and wholesale traders and retailers felt the threat as far as is concerned. And I can tell you that this particular challenge that Walmart and foreign traders pose, now actually, if you combine it with the threat which is going to come of the corporate takeover, the corporate control of the whole logistics chain. And I think most of you must be familiar with the fact that Adani has built 9,000 not only storage facilities all over the country for quite some time. That investment was going on, and so is the Reliance Retail growing in terms of the stores, investment in stores. If you look at the presence of Ambani's and Adani's, as well as Walmart and Amazon and other, agribusiness areas, and I'll come on the input side, their share of corporate share in the market in the on the retail side as well as the market side is tremendously on the rise. These farm laws are precisely to support them. The conditions are being created to enable them to actually have freedom, and not the freedom of the farmers is at all under the is in the focus. So if you shift to the other side on the input side, it was in 1819 itself, 17, 18, 19, that the mergers of Monsanto and Bayer took place. The DuPont and Dow took place. Syngenta and ChemChina took place. And when these mergers came under the scanner of the Competition Commission of India, the government had the opportunity, government had the possibility to actually control corporate power. But I was since advising the Competition Commission of India, we built the case for it. But to our dismay, and why dismay? I say that to our disappointment, the government decided to give in completely. Even the proposals which are not really very radical were shot down, like Technology Transfer Center or intellectual property being, a license attached with license of rights, so that no intellectual property can be used on the input side to build monopolies as far as it's concerned. And I can tell you that using those particular monopolies from the 2000s onwards, the input suppliers, all these people have been actually increasing the, shifting the production to Singapore and Europe back of agrochemicals in a big way as far as it's concerned. And the outflow, which we calculated, which has occurred through the this shift in production facilities taking place to Singapore and other, which are tax havens and so on, etc. And for the reasons that they also wanted to economize, because in those particular companies also there's finance capital pushing them to increase their profits and consolidating those particular facilities. So there used to be facilities in Goa, there used to be facilities in Hyderabad, and many of those particular facilities were closed down during this particular period. And so the point which one is trying to make is the outflow occurs, the drain occurs, the control of the corporates over input side occurs during this particular period. And the Modi government decides not to intervene. And just to add in terms of information for friends who have gathered here, since I had to call the Secretary of Ministry of Agriculture to the government, he said the new agriculture is going to be Monsanto's agriculture. They are the most technologically advanced. We do not have the capacity to at the moment, develop those technologies. So let us allow Monsanto, Bayer, these companies to come and invest in as they want. We should give more freedom to them, and Competition Commission should not be putting restrictions on them. This is the policy that was contrary to even what the 2000s Competition Commission law provides for, but the government actually interpreted and did not agree with the Competition Commission. And as a result, the Competition Commission then went back to the business as usual as far as it's concerned. To the point which comes out of this, that at every step we have seen in the past, international capital being facilitated on the one hand, and now the turn of the farm laws facilitating the Indian monopolies, that is Adani's and Ambani's. And of course, these three farm laws have only one aim as far as is concerned. Very clearly, the one that is Essential Commodities Act is concerned, it is very clear that is to allow them to export. The limits have been taken away because they do not want these companies to face any restrictions when they are exporting. So they can be hugely, building their export channels through the, and that law facilitates that. Second law is what has been called the bypass APMC bypass act also. If you look at, while it is true that not all farmers had the benefit of the APMC mandis, but the Green Revolution states had the benefit of these APMCs is concerned, and it's not for any reason that Punjab farmers are there. It's the Punjab farmers were the Green Revolution farmer. Haryana, this whole particular belt, Karnal, Panipat, this whole belt was again a Green Revolution belt. The West UP was again a Green Revolution belt, and similarly parts of Maharashtra and Karnataka, and they were also beneficiaries of the Green Revolution support system is concerned. And it is APMC did provide both in terms of procurement, a cushion to their incomes, as well as income guarantees occurred, and relatively speaking, they are more prosperous farmers. But over the period, earlier, while there could be accumulation, it happened. But the last, if in fact 10 years or so, if you look at, in fact, that capacity to have more surplus has reduced as far as this concerned considerably. Their incomes have reduced because MSPs have not been correspondingly raised, and the input prices have gone up on the other side, and the cost of even, let's say, from ecological, all the points which some friend raised here of the water and so on, etc. Yes, true. As a result, because water table has gone down in Punjab, but which also means the more electricity is being used as far as it's concerned. But if you look at this particular, electricity bill, before I come to the two other acts in detail as far as it's concerned, the electricity bill is going to raise the tariffs by 500%. 10,000 crore is going to be the burden on the green revolution states itself, which are actually dependent on groundwater far more than even many other states. So, in fact, groundwater dependence has grown all over the country as far as it's concerned. And these farmers who are dependent on, even if the cost is raised, let's remember that shifting away from a system of agriculture, which is external input intensive, is by no means going to be dealt with by the corporates. If I look at the Monsanto, Bayers and Syngentas, and I did a detailed evaluation of their integrated solution, so to say, they are all very external input intensive. So none of them are going to allow Punjab to actually make a transition to a new form of agriculture as far as it's concerned. Only thing what will happen is the squeeze would be there on the margins of these farmers as well as concerned. Now, I think another question which needs to be asked is that the kind of act which even corporate farming act is concerned, whether that is going to give them any income guarantee as far as it's concerned. And I can recall in this case, on one hand, details of the corporate farming, and I think Professor Sukhpal Singh has written extensively on this particular issue as far as it's concerned. In this case, there has been a lot of muddling happening, because even the sharecropping and the tenure tenancy are also being mixed up with the contract farming is concerned, which do not necessarily involve any assurance of output being picked up by anybody as far as it's concerned. Then there is no distinction made between various kinds of businesses who enter into contracts with the farmers, meaning the market power of the different actors is so different as far as it's concerned. There are no distinction made between the contracts as far as it's concerned, that the kind of interventions the government can make. On that, there is no rules and regulations built into these particular laws. That's true even with the APMC Bypass Act. There's no distinction between a warehouse, a small petty trader procuring as far as concerned. So, in fact, in every possible way, these laws are flawed, because they don't make a distinction with, on the basis of how much market power a trader or a contract provider has as well. That should have been the basis. Because, see, agricultural markets are primary commodity markets, and in these markets, very clearly, these are price inelastic, and at least particularly for food, and that can be said about the agricultural markets as a whole. And if you look at in these particular markets, the distinctions would have been very important to actually control over their market power as well as concerned. But it is not. Collusion power can take place, and we know cartelization takes place in these particular areas. And I know I was myself experimenting with the at one time the new technologies which are to be used for oilseed processing as well as pulse processing from the CSIR system. The new technologies had come in, and I know how we could not make even 2 ends meet, precisely because much of the profits are made in speculation, in the futures markets, and in the hoarding and so on, etc. Very little money in processing, even when you bring in new technology. So, in fact, whether it is food processing and which they are talking of can give benefits as far as it's concerned, or the contract marketing, which do not have, and I'm sure when Sainath speaks, he would also take us into several constitutional issues with regard to the way the executive and judiciary roles have been blurred in this particular case. Virtually, the SDM and the DC have been given so much power as far as concerned that your right to legal recourse has been taken away. So it's an attack on very much the powers of the freedom of the Indian farmers to actually bargain with the big traders as well as the big corporates. So this is the way the laws are built as far as this is concerned. So whether it is an Essentials Commodities Act or whether it is the APMC Bypass Act, that's the new mandis which are coming up. I think before I close on this particular three laws, I want to actually explain a political dimension of that. I think the Arthias, because those who were talking of middlemen as far as it's concerned, there are FPOs which have come in. You know, FPOs are again going to be utilized, and already I have evidence of from Balia districts as well as from Gorakhpur that where FPOs are being run more by big farmers as well as the traders. In fact, the Traders Association, and I don't want to name the person at the moment, with whom we had meeting just 5 days ago in order to get them to support also the farmers' market resistance struggles is concerned, pointed out to us that they have already started building FPOs in Balia and Gorakhpur area with the blessing of Yogi Adityanath as well as concerned. There's and you know the subsidy is being given for building of FPOs. FPOs are the new traders as well. They are under the control of new traders. The old RCRs, the commission agents and so on, etc., face today a new a possibility of traders coming from that. And that's the case with Bihar itself. From the 2006, when the new mandis were built, and when the APMCs were bypassed from 2006, many of these big traders and FPOs have been coming up, and this government has been giving subsidies to that. And that's a new route to accumulation in the case of traders, and they're going to enter into a variety of operations like it happened in the Green Revolution at one particular point of time in Punjab and Haryana. And I think some of the new states are going to have these new traders as far as it's concerned. Hello. What's happening? Some Pratosh Sen is presenting something screen with everyone. What's happening?
Please stop it.
Pranatosh Sen. Presentation বন্ধ করুন।
করে দিচ্ছি, কন্টিনিউ করুন স্যার, প্লিজ
Dinesh, you go on.
Please continue, Dinesh.
So these new FPOs controlled by traders, a new class of traders which have come up in Bihar already, and there's a study done by Bakhila Krishnamurthy on both Bihar as well as Odisha and Madhya Pradesh markets, and shows that BJP and RSS are building a new constituency. So the old Arthias, whose support they have lost in Punjab and in Haryana, many of them had close ties with the farmers as far as it's concerned, built over the period. And they're trying to build a new constituency. And you remember, and I think everybody knows it, that BJP started as a traders party, as a Bania party as far as it's concerned. And they were losing many of them when this foreign trade and foreign commerce was coming in. They need to build a new constituency. It's not only a corporate who are going to come in, whether Reliance, Adani, and Walmart and others. They are building also in a food chain a number of new traders. And I think we need to keep in mind the wider base which BJP is trying to build to. Another thing which I'm saying, people have been pointing out that this is not only Adani and new traders. In fact, it's a political act, it's a political surgical strike. Why they are saying is a political surgical strike? Precisely in these new states and in the old states, two things are happening. In the older states in Punjab and Haryana, etc., these Arthias, etc., if their power is struck against, it's not only their power, it's also the Sukhbir Singh Badal's power is struck against. It's also Sharad Pawar's and power is also struck against in Maharashtra. So that's also a political act, and they're saying they're trying to weaken the opposition parties. Akali Dal, that's why left also the BJP, the alliance. Similarly, they are trying to strike power against the earlier, interests which came up during the Green Revolution and the earlier periods. And they're trying to build a new set of constituencies now through the new policies as far as concerned. You have to see these laws combined with many of the new policies which are being introduced and have been introduced already by the both Ministry of Rural Development and Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, as well as the food processing FPO farmer producer organizations, as well as many of the other developments which have taken place in international opening of the markets as far as is concerned. Now, the last point, and I think my time is for the initial remarks, it's coming to close, and I would take over what can be done later only after Sai has spoken, and I think that's a major agenda. Is can this politics be defeated? How do we defeat this particular politics? The way they are building the constituencies as far as is concerned, farmers have felt vulnerable. Farmers have come out in number of Green Revolution states and beyond the Green Revolution state. Beyond the Green Revolution state, the effort has been on the part of the left considerably. So is the effort of the left in Punjab, and it is 32 unions. Out of them, 25, 26 unions are left unions. There are different factions of left as far as is concerned. And and it's not for any reason that they attacked Kerala yesterday, the thing, and already I'll build on it later. The Kerala story is in fact our own strength in a big way, but later when we say what is to be taken to the public, how we can show not only that the farmers are affected, but how the people in general are affected, how the food inflation will be unleashed, how the food security would be undermined, how actually livelihoods of the hawkers and street vendors would be undermined. I think there are many issues beyond farmers being affected. Actually, when farmers are affected, there's a number of other, close to 60% plus is our rural economy, but so is our urban economy, the informal economy. We saw it in the COVID period as far as concerned. And let us not forget, those people are also children and sons and daughters of the very same small and marginal farmers who are in these particular states. They felt impacted as far as it's concerned. And to them, when we reached back with the story saying what these laws are all about, through the PDS and the livelihood route, I am sure a people's movement can come up. People's voices can come up, but we'll develop this particular strand of thought later after Sai has spoken. And I think I'll close here. I think it's about 1945 or so on my watch.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you, Dinesh. Actually, our next speaker is P. Sainath. So, after Mr. Sainath is over, his speech is over, after this thing, there will be a session where all the questions will be taken up for discussion. So please wait up till now. Mr. Sainath, please.
Thank you very much. Just, I think, have I unmuted? Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm speaking to an audience significantly composed of academicians, intellectuals, teachers, and activists, and want to try keeping my intervention linked to that. In the little time we have, I want to make 5 points. One is that the crisis we are seeing over these laws, do not disconnect these laws from the larger ongoing process of the agrarian crisis. Let's say you repeal these laws. You must repeal them. We have to fight for their repeal, which is what the farmers are doing so valiantly. But even if we repeal them, the agrarian crisis is not over. We go back to a place which was anyway bad. So we need to always bear that in mind, that this was another milestone on the highway to agrarian hell. So that's one thing. Let's not disconnect this from the larger crisis. And both both Viju and Abrol have very significantly outlined that larger crisis. I'm saying we should never forget the link of these laws to that. The second thing is that all these crises, this one over the laws, what has happened under the pandemic, the hunger crisis, the agrarian crisis, all are centrally linked to India's fundamental structural inequalities. In terms of impact, we have to always view this against that canvas. The third point I'm going to try and make is that it affects everybody. These laws affect everybody, not just farmers. They affect every Indian citizen. Four, I think we need to look, at least briefly, at the role of the intellectual. I mean, given the audience that you are, on the role of the intellectual and the horrible, despicable role of the media in promoting that particular kind of intellect and intellectual who is doing such incredible damage to the farmers and the nation. And five, I want to suggest, as Dinesh had brought it up, that what can be the response? These are the five things that I hope to do. Now, as the first, you've already had a sense of the larger crisis, but what are these things in the laws that are so objectionable? And we'll come to the propaganda bit later. What are these things? As I said, one of the points I want to make is that these laws affect everybody, every single person. And there is a history to this in the larger agrarian crisis, but I'll stick to two of the provisions mentioned in two of these laws, the ones connected with the APMCs and the one connected with contract farming. You look at Article 13, 15, and then Article 19 in the other one of these laws. Here's what Article 19 says. I'm calling it article, it should be section. Lawyer friends would immediately correct me. Section 19, section 13, 15. What do they say? No suit or prosecution shall lie against the central government, against the state government, against any officer of the central government, against any officer of the state government, or against any other persons acting in good faith, with good intention, in good faith, or intended to be done by them in good faith under this act. So you are not only giving immunity for crimes committed by these people, you are granting immunity for crimes that are yet to be committed, for actions that may be undertaken by them in good faith against this, under this law. Now, central government, state government, central government officer, state government officer, and who are those and other persons? Those and other persons are corporations. The farmers realize this, but the intellectuals are still lagging behind in understanding. The farmers are naming those other persons. They're calling them Ambani and Adani. Of course, there are many more also. It's not just the two of them, but they are the main. So you've written a law conferring impunity of action. And the jurisdiction of civil courts, no court shall grant an injunction under this, okay? The jurisdiction of civil courts is barred. I also want to tell you an update on what is happening. This is being extended to other laws, like, in fact, the anti-cow slaughter ban. The anti-cow slaughter ban law in the anti-cow slaughter ban in Karnataka, which they were not able to push through, they are trying to push through as an ordinance. These clauses of these laws are repeated there even more strongly and viciously, which is like writing a law granting immunity to the VHP and Bajrang Dal. For it says persons acting under this act will be deemed as public servants. Okay. My point is this, that the entire idea of one, immunity is being given to criminal action, either that which has happened or which is likely to happen, to very specific social political forces. The executive is being converted into judiciary because the jurisdiction of civil courts is barred. As Dinesh said, some subdivisional magistrate, some collector, deputy collector becomes the judge. No, in fact, the Bar Council of Delhi has protested, saying this is going to destroy the district courts. It's going to harm the legal profession very seriously. And which makes my point, it's not just about farmers that these laws are. The entire Article 32 of the Constitution, for many people, the most important right of the Constitution, fundamental right, the right to legal remedies, lies in tatters with this kind of legal action, or legal misaction, if you prefer. So don't think that this is only second. It affects every citizen because, as Viju has explained, as Dinesh has explained, the impact it is going to have on the public distribution system, which we are now trying to, the entire thing which the PDS created, the buffer stocks created, all that is being handed over to Mr. Adani, Mr. Ambani, and a couple of others. Your food security of this nation is seriously threatened if these laws continue to exist. So this is, third, as I said, important. Therefore, it is incredibly important to reverse these. And incidentally, if you just look at the language, it is so clear who it is written for. I want to make a point to a bunch of academics and intellectuals and teachers here. Please, much of this is based on, in the media and by captive intellectuals of the establishment, on demonization of the APMC and the Mandi, as if these are something evil. The best way of understanding, and I think teachers and academicians would immediately understand and would be able to communicate to others, the best way of understanding this is government schools. Government schools are terrible outside of 1 or 2 or 3 states. Kerala, Tamil Nadu have very good government schools, but a few states have good government schools. In many other places, government schools are what people who cannot afford anything else go to. They have a lack of infrastructure. Forget online education and tablets and smartphones. Several of them in this country would be lucky to have a decent blackboard. But they are the only chance for tens of millions of poor children in this country to get anything approaching a decent education. And they are the only place in the country that tens and millions of Indian children get to eat a decent meal every day of their lives. Okay, they get to have one decent. May I ask people to mute their mics, please? Please, may I request people to mute their mics? I'm getting a lot of feedback and noise.
Pradeep, can you please mute everybody except Mr. Sainath, please? Admin can do this. Admin, please mute everybody except Mr. Sainath.
Yeah, so we know that, do we argue that government schools should be closed and liberate children and give them the choice of going to GD Birla school or Ambani school or somebody else school? We don't do that because we know that it would destroy the poorest of children in this country. Please understand it this way. The government school is the APMC of the education sector. Okay? The government school is the APMC of the education sector. The primary health center and district hospitals They are the APMCs and mandis of the health sector. The APMC is your government school of the agrarian sector. It offers some chance, some price. Viju told you very clearly, we need reforms in those. We need reforms in the mandis. We need reforms in the APMC. But who are those reforms to be for? These are not reforms. These are rewriting the power balance even more aggressively in favor of the corporate world. And this brings me to that point, that larger agrarian crisis. What is that larger agrarian crisis? In 5 words. And I don't need to give you examples because Dinesh and Viju have given you umpteen examples. But in 5 words, the agrarian crisis is corporate hijack of Indian agriculture. That is your agrarian crisis in 5 words. And today the farmers at the gates of Delhi are very clear. How much I wish that the rest of us would share that clarity, that they are up against corporate power. They are fighting corporate power. And the battle against corporate power is the great, great battle of our era, of our times. Second, now that was the agrarian crisis in 5 words. What is the process by which that crisis is unfolded and unleashed? 5 words. Predatory commercialization of the countryside. You're making life impossible for the farmer, for the petty trader, for allied occupations. The kind of cost explosion that Indian farming has seen. There are per acre expansions according to the crop of 300 to 500% and higher for cultivation. But has the farmer's income gone up 300, 500%? Not a chance, you all know that. I won't waste time trying to convince you on that. Predatory commercialization of the countryside is this process. And the predators are the corporate world. In fact, by the way, I personally have covered the Aratyas in Punjab. And for me, again, I think somebody else is presenting something. Could you please take that out?
Prashanjit, can you stop sharing screen? Prashanjit, can you stop sharing, please?
Yeah. I've covered the Aratyas. For me, what amazes me, are the Aratyas say benign, wonderful people? No, I don't think so. I think commission agents anywhere, whether it is the Taragars of Tamil Nadu, the Tekadars of Bihar or wherever, there is an exploitative chain. What amazes me is that Mr. Narendra Modi and Mr. Shah have managed to unite all these forces. They've managed to unite that Aratya, the commission agent and his farmer. And as Dinesh said, many changes have taken place. In fact, the caste base of the Aratyas in Punjab has been changing. And many more groups have come into it in the last 20 years. But the astonishing thing is that they all see a gigantic war against them. And you've managed to unite them. Fine. The third part of that agrarian crisis in 5 words, what is the result of that? The result in 5 words, largest displacement in our history. That already happened, by the way, between the 91 census and the 2011 census. 15 million full-time farmers dropped out of main cultivator status. Where did they go? Most of them fell into the agrarian underclass of agricultural workers. Millions others migrated. During the pandemic, I was so irritated when the reverse migration started, and many people were asking with supposed compassion, they were asked, why are they going back to the villages? The real question was, why did they leave their villages in the first place? Why did they come here on the promise of a model that would take 40% of people out of agriculture and create a greater industrial society? You didn't create one job, particularly in the private sector, of the kind that would absorb the kind of people being displaced, plus the millions of those who were being displaced. I mean, were being displaced clearly without the slightest option of where to go. This was your agrarian crisis. We hammered Indian agriculture out of shape, led to millions of people having to leave their villages, leave the agricultural process, leave the agrarian economy. And it wasn't just farmers, weavers, potters, kumbhars, your mistris, carpenters, all of them were devastated. That's why it's an larger agrarian society crisis, not just that of cultivators and farmers, but it centers around the crisis of those cultivators and farmers. And today the Aratyas also, as part of that larger agrarian society, are being devastated and feel the heat. So that's one more thing. The fundamental role, this inequalities. One thing that COVID-19 did for us, one service that COVID-19 did, it gave us an incredible, unsparing autopsy of who we are as a society, of what capitalism is as a system. Most of our problems predate the pandemic, but are exacerbated tremendously on the lines of existing social economic inequalities. In the first 4 months of the pandemic, Indian billionaires, and there are about 120 of them, according to Forbes, added 1/3 to their wealth, bringing the total cumulative wealth to $435 billion US. Please see think of the health, what you could do on the health sector with that, what you could do on the hospital health, preventive health sector in that sense with that kind of money. They added 35% to their already incredible wealth that made them the richest 120 people in 1.3 billion, in 1.3 billion human beings. So that is one. By the way, the richest of them, Mukesh Ambani, whose name the farmers are chanting at the gates of Delhi. Mukesh Ambani, before the pandemic, in the single year of 2017, added $16.9 billion US to his wealth. That is, do you know what that is? That 1,05,000 crores in 12 months, entirely due to policy shifts and policy changes made consciously by this government that enriched him. Do you know that what it would take to earn that kind of money in a year? It would take 18.7 million workers on the NREGS to work for a year without a single day's break to generate that 1,05,000 crores between them. Okay, that is what it would take. Now, in the present pandemic, the great beneficiaries, and this is so important for teachers, are these rackets called online education entrepreneurs and corporations like Byju's that have doubled their wealth from their value from $5.5 billion to almost $12 billion and growing. It is in the field of education that India's children have been thrashed. There is not, at least in the sector of hunger, there is some concern that hunger has risen so tremendously. Schools are closed down, there is no midday meal. At least we are looking at the damage and the apocalypse over there. But when it comes to education, how many of us even ask, how many girl children in rural West Bengal have a smartphone where they will download their PDFs, where they will do their studies? If you look in the last, if you look at what has happened, and can I share screen with you on some tables which will show you how incredibly linked inequality and access to education are, and how the more egalitarian a society, the better its figures. May I do that?
Oh, yes, do that.
How do I
It's
do it?
8 o'clock now.
How to press? How
Just,
do I?
just present
Do
here.
it, just share.
Click on the present. Present now.
Yeah.
You click on the present
Okay.
now.
I'm clicking on the present now, and then
Then share.
There is a window.
a window.
Ah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
click on the window.
Yeah. Okay. Here we are. Look, this is the latest NSS data.
It still hasn't come through. It still hasn't come. Yeah, it's coming now.
Yes, all right. Carry on.
This is the latest NSS data, the latest social indicators of consumption in education. I think I'm digressing a little because I think it's important that teachers see this. Okay. How unequal we are and what is happening to education. This is before the pandemic. Karnataka, which is the great, mother of Silicon Valley. Let us just look at the percentage of households with computer and internet facility. Look. Let us look at percentage of households with computer and internet facility for different states. Karnataka, just 2% of rural households have computer facilities. Just 8.3% of rural households have internet facilities. It's all not incredibly better. In fact, internet facility worse. 3.3% of rural households, 7.9% with an internet facility. But look at, by the way, Uttar Pradesh shows down Karnataka in terms of computers at home. Now, I don't know, that might be because Noida and Ghaziabad, Faridabad come under, I don't know if they come as rural UP, but that's a problem. But Kerala is way ahead of the rest of the country. Okay. Internet facility, almost 1 in 2 houses has that internet facility. Again, percentage of persons of 5 years and above with the ability to use internet for different states. Tamil Nadu and Kerala are way ahead. Kerala is way ahead of Tamil Nadu. Okay. How much, whichever one of the 5 tables you look at, percentage with ability to operate computers, those states with which are relatively far more egalitarian and welfare oriented show the finest figures in this. So, I mean, I can send you the entire set of tables, and you can look at them yourself. Also, the other thing on the history of this, which people should know, this as early as 2011, the Prime Minister appointed a consumer affairs group, which was chaired by then Chief Minister Narendra Modi. Okay, Mr. Narendra Modi chaired the consumer affairs group, which wrote that report which covered many of the issues that are in contention today, and ended up writing in point 3b, just a moment. Yeah, this is point 3b. I am going to do this again, that I'm going to share a single thing with you. Yeah, I'm going to present now, window. I'm sorry, it doesn't show up, but I'll read it out for you. It says, the report says, signed by Mr. Narendra Modi, says, no transaction in this country should be allowed below MSP, between farmer and trader. Nothing should be allowed. Okay, this is what, and he then hands over the report. You can get onto Google and see the photographs to Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh in the benign, benevolent presence of Pranab Da. Okay, so this is the man who in 2011 headed that committee, headed that national high-powered committee, arguing for all these things. There is a history to this which you must know. What, as Viju told you, 2014 they came to power with this promise and got the votes of crores of farmers. In 2018 budget speech, paragraphs 13 and 14, Mr. Arun Jaitley categorically said, yes, we made the promise and it has been fulfilled. We have fulfilled the promise in the Rabi crop and we will do it in the Kharif crop also. Paragraph 13, 14, budget speech of 2018. Now, the last point I want to make is about the propaganda battles and what all of us can do, what this audience can do. After this, starting maybe in this meeting itself, you can think about it. I think that the role of the intellectual, the certified intellectual, there is a media certified intellectual, a bunch of, the Indian director to the IMF is entering, brawls and battles in the media. Is tomorrow the Indian ambassador to the United Nations also going to go on record in the media abusing Indian farmers? Professor Surjit Balla has been saying these are all rich farmers. They want socialism for rich farmers. The average income of a farm household in this country is 6,426 rupees a month for a household of 4 to 5 members. Punjab's above that average is 10,800. Bihar's is 3,000 odd. So should we bring up Bihar to the level of Punjab or drag Punjab down to the level of Bihar? What are we discussing? What is it that we want to do? This entire propaganda, I think intellectuals and intelligentsia, academicians and teachers should take it on, and they should also take it on in their, familiarize themselves with the facts and history of this, and also take it on in one other way that I, on behalf of Dinesh, myself, and all of us others who participate in the forum called Nation for Farmers, Dinesh actually put out that idea even earlier. I think that wherever we are, whichever town, whichever city, whichever block, whichever district we are, you start a Save Farmer, Save Nation committee. Because, as I said, it's about the nation, it's not just about farmers. But the two are so organically linked. Everywhere we need a Save Farmer, Save Nation committee with 4 or 5 minimal demands. 1, repeal of these laws. 2, a special session of parliament to discuss agrarian crisis and related issues like the water privatization that they are already unleashing through the Niti Aayog, who's chaired by a man who thinks there's too much of a democracy in India. Third, these little bodies, it can be in your locality in Kolkata, will take up anti-corporate and anti-corporate boycotts of those which the farmers are calling upon us to do. Anti-corporate boycotts of the goods of these big agri-business giants. Third, that is the fourth. Fourth is to bring consciousness across the country on the state of what is happening to the farmer, who is telling the truth, what is the history of what is going on. And 5, these groups can bring on local issues which will add to the mobilization. But I won't go on much longer. Let's start with every one of us forming a Save Farmer, Save Nation committee. The Nation for Farmers, as Dinesh will tell you, would be delighted to be the nodal organization. But this is not a new structure or no new hierarchy. We let each of these groups take it up and try building that kind of consciousness about these laws and the agrarian strife across the country. Thank you.
Excellent as usual, Mr. Sainath. I don't know what should I do next. Possibly questions are there.
Yeah.
How many in the chat?
There are about There are about quite a few questions, about 7-8 questions, which are, I think, worth taking up, Ratanda. Professor.
No, they're addressed to
Hello.
Generally, no. These are general questions.
general questions. These are general questions.
Yes, some are there in the YouTube chat box also.
See, that
How long
Ratan,
could we continue? How long could we
Maybe
continue?
another half an hour at best, I guess. Otherwise, yeah. So that we have been, yeah.
Half an hour.
What do you think? Ishita, what do you think? Another half an hour, right?
I think another 20 minutes most
20
at
minutes.
most, because people may don't.
Then possibly the question answer session can be taken up now. Ishita.
But Ratanda, you also have to deliberate.
Yeah, yes.
So let me speak for, I don't
ask
know.
ask others to mute
Please
There
mute.
is a mute. Please mute.
So I will speak for some 5-10 minutes,
Yeah.
and after that there will be a question answer session.
Okay.
So I come straight to the point from the point of view of an economist. Indian agriculture is in a process of capitalist transformation. In the capitalist transformation, the logic of capitalism one shall have to adhere to. What is the logic of capitalism? Logic of capitalism is that the rate of profit will be lower in such sectors in which the production is less capital intensive, and the rate of profit would be higher in such sectors in which the production is more capital intensive. Less capital intensive, less profit. Higher capital intensive will fetch a higher rate of profit. This is the basic law. If I have 100 rupees to invest, and if I decide to invest in agriculture, then by virtue of the fact that I am choosing agriculture, I will earn a lesser rate of profit. How does the society negotiate this thing under capitalism, not pre-capitalism? The society can negotiate this thing in a way where the market is competitive and there is a general rate of profit. Agriculture which produces less profit is compensated by the quote-unquote general rate of profit which a competitive market can ensure. Under capitalism, what happens is that the market is not opened up for competition between agriculture and industry. Industry in some sectors are opened up, some are not. They exercise monopoly power over this one. As a result, what happens is that agriculture remains stressed. It cannot get the general rate of profit. What could be the answer to it? If agriculture does not get the general rate of profit, lower rate of profit, capital will be shifted from agriculture to industry. That should be the economic answer to this particular question. I am not getting good profit and therefore the money will be shifted from agriculture to industry. If the money is shifted from agriculture to industry, consider the limiting situation. Every money comes to industry, not a single farthing goes to agriculture. The country or the society or the economy then suffers from what we call the wage goods constraint. The constraint coming from the non-availability of agricultural commodities. What could be the consequence if the wage goods constraint develops? Logically, the rate of profit will come down in a closed economy. If the rate of profit comes down in industrial sector, then the general rate of profit itself declines. In order to have a situation where agriculture cannot put such a constraint on the general development of industry, the industry negotiates with agriculture. And the negotiation comes in the way that the agriculture will be compensated by industry. If general rate of profit is not ensured, some fund, some profit from industry will be shifted to agriculture, and this will be done by an agent, and that agent is the state. The state in Great Britain, state in USA, state in Germany collects this money from the corporate and then gives it, since the general rate of profit is not ensured, then gives it in the form of subsidy to agriculture, so that the general rate of profit in the agriculture rate of profit in agriculture is goes up, and agriculture becomes or remains remunerative. This was done in case of Germany by what we call the marriage between rye and steel during the time of Bismarck. This took place. In case of British, as we all know, that there's a long history of struggle. That Ricardian case of abolition of corn law. I will not. I won't have enough time to enter into all these things. But crux of the matter is that England also, Britain has also to take care of the fact that the agriculture shall have to be subsidized at the cost of the industry. Some fund from industry should go to agriculture. Some profit generated in industry should go to agriculture so that it survives. So also in case of USA, you will find this kind of logic goes on. The other logic could be that, okay, if money does not go to agriculture, there is no investment in agriculture, every investment comes in industry, then possibly the industrial goods producing economy, which is specialized in this one, could go for international trade, where situation would develop in such a way that it could bring cheaper agricultural produce from countries which are specialized in agriculture, from the logic of comparative advantage. No country actually takes this particular course because they want to maintain food security. In India, during the time of Mrs. Gandhi, when capitalist transformation started taking place in India, this particular issue came up for consideration. Who will give the remunerative price for a capitalist transformation of agriculture? Who will give the price? Who would actually give the compensation to agriculture so that capitalist investment in agriculture comes in? Answer to Mrs. Gandhi was that state will provide this thing. How the state can provide this thing? The state will collect corporate tax, and out of that tax, a portion will go to agriculture. And that was actually the spirit behind APMC. That was the spirit behind MSP. And that this is the construct by which you can understand the capitalist transformation in India. Capitalist transformation of Indian agriculture. This was the path. From the beginning of 1990s, this particular structure, as I placed to you, the structure as developed by Mrs. Gandhi, that came under attack. Under the aegis of neoliberalism, the logic came in a way like this: no subsidy, no where, and therefore agriculture will not get the subsidy. In our mindset of the intellectuals also, the issue comes in such a way that subsidy, why agriculture would get subsidy? I would tell you that agriculture everywhere gets subsidy. Otherwise, no money will go to agriculture, because the general rate of profit is never ensured in the economy. And the text that I can refer to you is Marx's Theories of Surplus Value, Volume 2, first 50 pages. There you will get how the relation between agriculture industry develops under capitalism. So that transformation came up during the time of Mrs. Gandhi, and that was the understanding on the path of which India was moving. Then from 90s on, the attack on this particular concept came up. Anyway, situation developed in a different way during UPO 1 when the agricultural issue was addressed by by inviting a national commission on agriculture, where this issue of giving the minimum support price was discussed thoroughly. I am referring to the MS Swaminathan Commission recommendation. That actually gives provision for a price on which agriculture could become remunerative. What is that particular price? You all know, and what had been there in Swaminathan report, and what Modi, how Modi actually took this Swaminathan report, and how the Modi government cheated us, cheated the agricultural community on the question of this remunerative price. All these things you know. But the issue is this: if agriculture does not get the subsidized price, then how agriculture can survive? Agriculture cannot survive. This new policy of the Modi government actually brings home a particular scenario where agriculture, whatsoever is there, whatsoever has developed in India, would be completely jeopardized. Agriculture will become unremunerative, and as agriculture becomes unremunerative because it is not getting any subsidy, as agriculture becomes unremunerative, entire equilibrium of the economy will be disturbed. And Modi is trying to develop this situation intentionally, just with a short-sighted view, the view of serving a tiny section of capitalists. A tiny section of capitalists would get the benefit of this kind of legal provisions at the cost of the equilibrium which is there in the economy. The equilibrium will be jeopardized. There will be no MSP, no subsidy in agriculture, so to say, and consequently no PDS and no food security. Investment in agriculture will become unremunerative. As a result, India will face periodic famine. So I would just tell you that the academicians would enter into the crux of the issue. The crux of the issue is, for capitalism in agriculture, we need some support to agriculture, given to agriculture. And under the new law, this can be ensured if outside the mandi, no commodity sold below the MSP. That particular provision the government could bring in, so that even if outside mandi, if you sell, you will get not less than the MSP. So my issue will be, to conclude, concentrate on the issue of the MSP. Concentrate on the particular point that agriculture never remains remunerative. In a capitalist setup where there is a competition with the agricultural industry, agriculture needs subsidy, and that subsidy industry should provide. And that can be done giving this subsidy by creating a provision, which provision the state only can create. I think this should be the issue on which emphasis should come. Emphasis is also coming. The peasants are, as I find in Delhi, they are sticking to this particular point. Mandi or no mandi, we need the MSP. In other words, mandi or no mandi, we need Swaminathan Commission prices. Yes, if that is ensured, I tell you, the subsidy issue which the agriculture needs to have can be solved. With these words, I finish, and I open the issue for I open this session for discussion.
Okay.
What are the
Dinesh,
questions?
how do we go about it now? How do we go about it?
Dinesh,
I just
there are
want
quite
to
a
know
few questions. There are a number of them. There are
how many
some
questions are there? This person has to be speaking. How many questions are there?
There are quite a few. I've gone through the chat. Ratan.
So there are about 11 questions, Dinesh. Ratanda, let me speak to the,
Acha, then let us do one thing.
I've picked up 2 or 3. Shall I read them out? I think, and then Ishita has maybe a couple of questions from the YouTube room.
Yes, I have a couple
So I suggest that we put forward a couple of questions from this chat room, 2 or 3 questions. Some of them, I think the speakers have already covered. Sainath, Dinesh, and Ratanda and Biju, I think they have covered many of the most of the questions in the chat room, save 2 questions which I think should be dealt with, 2 or 3 at best. So one is farmers movement is absolutely North India oriented. How marginal farmers can be included, or other farmers from other part of the country, how it affects. So I think that is, and how they should be rallied into joining the movement. That is one question. The other question
Address to
addressed to any of them.
anybody can
not
take up.
directed to anyone in particular.
This question. Acha.
Yeah,
It's a general question, Ratan Da.
it's a general question.
Yes, acha, okay.
The second question is that much of this agrarian crisis started much before the new economic policy. For example, Green Revolution itself was very region focused, and that led to increase in the gap between rich and the poor. So that's one question which I thought ought to be answered. Of course, there is this question that, West Bengal, Kerala, etc., farmers should also join the movement immediately. But I guess that is covered in this question, where it says that how should farmers, other marginalized farmers from other part of the country can join in the movement. I think these are the couple of questions that come out. There is one on MSP, but that's a kind of
I get about it. Who is going to take this question?
Yeah, okay.
Now,
I'll take up. Ratan Da, I'll take up. Yeah, but okay, let Ishita also state the question.
Acha.
Yes, 2-3 questions in the YouTube chat. One is there that what do you mean by judicious reform? Can you give some example? This is one. And USA has subsidy to farmers. Why should Indian farmers not have that? Where is fair play? And the 3 is, what are the alternatives to this kind of a stalemate? So these are the 3 questions. These are general questions.
There is yet one more, which is Satyaki Bhattacharya writes, Ashok Gulati made a remark that we are not in 65. The agriculture should be demand driven, not supply driven, and they can be compensated for, and can be compensated for that. Can we? Yeah. So can the panelists comment on this statement by Ashok Gulati? If you care to, yeah.
Okay. I think it's a huge agenda, Ratan Da, which people are wanting us to address. But let me start with a political question which has been asked, and I think all the questions can be probably built into that answer to the political question.
1 minute. I think we have 20 minutes in all to wrap up. Essentially, between 15 and 20 minutes.
I think
You will not get much time to speak on.
I know that, and that's why I'm saying if you really want academicians and intellectuals to be satisfied, then you should really organize one more webinar. And Ratan Da, you have opened another terrain, and I am tempted to even respond to that, but I'm not going to do that at the moment.
That's a bit technical, but anyway, yes.
No. It's technical, but equally political. So
It is also political. It is also political. If we consider the German history, you will find that particularly on this issue, the 50 years of German history developed.
No, I have a number of things about the way US agriculture. See, it supports only 4% of the population. European Union supports only 8% of the population. And they are much smaller populations.
Question is not supporting the population. Question is investing the money in agriculture.
No, I'm coming.
No, 1 rupee in agriculture, if you find it unremunerative, the answer is no.
I'm not conducting at the moment a discussion on the points you have raised. That's a different agenda altogether. The point which I'm trying to make is a political agenda. That we have a 60% of the farm population dependent on the rural economy and farming at the moment, which is a huge population which to be supported as far as is concerned. Now, subsidies, region, etc., all that is particularly seen. But the people are asking the question here is that this subsidy went to some few regions. This subsidy went to some few sections as far as is concerned. And we are giving an answer to that now particular challenge, that if there the subsidy regime is being eroded, the incomes are being eroded, those people have gathered on the Delhi border. Should others join it? Because they didn't get as much support from the subsidy regime earlier, as is concerned. The first thing is the peasant movement sitting on the border is asking for MSP for all crops. Number one. That's why it will benefit even farmers of East India, eastern states in India, as well as other states, including states in center, states in southern India as well as concerned. Number one. Number two, they are asking for procurement systems to be raised everywhere as far as is concerned. So it's not that they are asking for only Punjab and Haryana. Point number one. Number two, in fact, if alternatives being asked for as far as concerned, there are set of principles which are to be followed as far as is concerned. In the Indian Constitution, the agriculture is a state subject, and Indian agriculture is hugely diverse. Hill agriculture, eastern agriculture, green revolution agriculture, dryland farmers agriculture, rainford agriculture, and all of them there have their own demands. Mr. Gulati, when he talks of supply versus demand driven as far as it's concerned, he doesn't define what kind of demands are there. Primary productivity in agriculture has declined over the period. Risk of the farmers has been increasing tremendously because of both weather-induced shocks as well as soil and water and biodiversity health having gone down. Primary production is different from industrial production. One must keep it in mind. The conditions for labor are determined by conditions for labor. That is, the labor being productive as far as it is dependent on ecosystem services.
Exactly.
Okay. Having said that particular point, and they are deteriorating in every state. And the corporate investments which are taking place, the transactions which are taking place, I just gave you the idea of the inputs, the way monopolies are working, and I do not have time to go into detail. You read my articles on the impact of concentration of agribusiness in the input sector on actually both incomes as well as on the environment and health as far as it's concerned. See, after all, what is today the US and Europe's environmental and health conditions of the livestock sector? It's a huge area which needs to be discussed. It's deteriorated hugely as far as it's concerned. It's contributing also to the greenhouse gases and so on, etc. The risk is, how do they want to actually transfer the burden? They want to transfer the burden precisely through the WTO regime, which is neither environment and health sensitive, nor is sensitive to the incomes and the challenges and the demands of the farmers of the Indian peninsula or the African states as far as it's concerned, and even of the Latin America, because that's a far more, in fact, parts of Brazil are commercial agriculture, but other. So, in fact, this transfer of value is taking place to precisely corporate agriculture, which is now hugely digital, is big data based. New technologies and capital are being introduced, and that's a way of extractivism, actually. So, one needs to, it will further deepen the crisis. And I can tell you, so I talked about the wider states which are not benefited the subsidy, but those very movements which are concerned about the women and children health, the very movements which are concerned about the environment across the country as far as should be joining this particular effort. You talked of PDS, there will be no PDS, exactly so. And if the food and nutrition challenge which is there, these are the movements we should be anywhere, any part of. Somebody asked whether West Bengal and Kerala should join. Okay, maybe they didn't benefit out of the subsidy regime as far as it's concerned. But precisely because they are they can be the states which would, at least Kerala, let's begin with that, and West Bengal case is slightly different. Kerala's case is totally, the procurement system get finished in Punjab and Haryana, their food security will be jeopardized. They are dependent on whether public procurement will continue or not. Their PDS, which has been the universal PDS, far more successful, effective PDS is concerned, will come into big trouble as far as it's concerned. Today I was talking to Harilal, who's the member planning board of Kerala. He was saying our PDS would be completely finished as far as it's concerned. To cut the story short, Ratanda and other friends, as far as it's concerned, farmers' movement has just actually opened the space for a new politics. The question is, in this politics, are you going to stick to the old facts? That is, rich farmers benefiting in Punjab? No. In fact, their accumulation process has completely stopped. I come from Punjab. I know Punjab, what's happening to it. In fact, the details of that one can talk about in Punjab agriculture. Now it's for survival, those particular farmers. It's not for nothing that those particular farmers from Malwa, Baja, Doaba, all these regions are sitting there for nothing. They are sitting precisely because they know their incomes have gone down, and they do not want that. They want APMCs, what we call the government schools, China, or the PSCs. Precisely, they are wanting that this particular support system should continue, and this support system they are asking for should be widened and developed for all states. The third point and the last point that I want to make in this particular case is Save Farmer, Save Nation Committee. Are committees which have to carry this counter propaganda and the counter to the Modi government politics as far as it's concerned. The Modi government actually has gone on a particular path, and I explained it through the international trade and market. Your AMS entitlement is so small. In fact, according to US and the EU, in 2018 March meeting, we are supposed to be not giving more than 356 rupees as a MSP to the wheat. Rice 250 as far as it's concerned, which is 1/4 or 1/5 of what we are giving at the moment, which is also not covering the cost of production. So if you allow the international trade and the international actors to have their way as far as it's concerned, Modi will have to, and as he's politically moving in that particular direction, in no state there would be further any investment from the state. Public investment nature would not come in. Only private investment would be coming, and they would squeeze it further. There's a whole process which is beginning, which will do not only semi-proliferation, but immiserization of the kind which we have never seen in the past. That would, malnutrition has already increased tremendously. If you look at the latest NHFS data as well.
NFSH 5.
Yeah,
malnutrition has increased.
Is increased. Stunting has increased. Underweight has increased. In fact, a few indicators which have gone increased. So in all cases, and if Sainath and we all start discussing water privatization, railway is the carrier of the food grains. They are wanting to finish the cross-subsidy system. They are putting all passenger trains, Rajdhanis and luxury trains all under. The food grain trade would be actually undermined. And that means Kerala would be undermined. It means other states which are dependent on the surplus and the procurement elsewhere, the whole PDS, small and marginal sections would be. And I hope the correct message is taken, because it's Gulatis and the Bhallas who are trying to show that this is a rich farmer's fight. It's not a rich farmer's fight, it's everybody's fight, and yours and mine fight as far as it's concerned. I hope our comrades in Bengal and Kerala and in other states all take this particular message to the rest of the population. I'll stop here. Let's eye ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Sainath.
Yeah, very, very briefly.
Very briefly, of course.
I want to, I want to ask how many of you, when this rich farmer debate, how many of you know rich people who will sleep in metal trolleys in temperatures of 5 to 6 degrees Celsius and bathe in the open in cold water? How many rich people do we know who do this? They're sleeping in bloody metal trolleys that are colder than the bloody atmosphere because they absorb so much of the cold. And these are rich people. I don't know a single rich person. I know many rich people. I do not know a single person who's going to spend 1 month in 5 to 6 degrees Celsius early morning and have a cold water bath unless they are absolutely feeling the assault on their lives, not just livelihoods. That is one thing that I wanted to say. Second, the stalemate. Ishita had asked from the YouTube channel. The thing is, about people being reasonable and agreeing and compromise. I'm saying, how can the stalemate be broken? It can be broken by the repeal of the 3 laws and calling for a special session of Parliament to discuss these laws, the agrarian crisis, and related issues. Let me make one single point here about this stalemate. A government of the day makes these ordinances without talking to anybody except perhaps to the Gulatis and the Bhallas and their captive think tanks, does not discuss this with opposition, with political parties, no democratic public debate, no consultation. It goes to Parliament, rams it through, refuses all demands for these to be referred to a committee, standing or otherwise, to look at them, throws out 8 members of Parliament, suspends them so that it can get the voting strength required in the Raj Sabha, consults nobody, passes a law which condemns you to death, passes a death sentence on you, and then comes out and says, we are being so reasonable, we are willing to discuss whether you should be executed by hanging or by being executed by firing squad. We are willing to discuss all these issues, but we are not willing to undo the basic law. The point is this: the government has agreed, according to the government and the farmer, they have said that they're willing to make 12 amendments to cover those 14, 15 points the farmers are making. Now, if you are going to amend 90% of a law, it is a meaningless law. It is a useless law in which you have to amend 90%. So the point is that the stalemate is coming from the stubbornness of one person's ego on which this country runs. If you are saying 90% of the law I'm agreeing is bad, I'll amend it. Just withdraw the whole damn thing, you'll break your stalemate. The other thing, Ratnanda, the point is, Mr. Gulati and others, I think there's a very fundamental gap in whether we look at agriculture as a job, or do we look at agriculture in terms of output, or do we look at agriculture as a livelihood? Depending on which of these approaches you adopt, you will arrive at those different positions. And Mr. Gulati has a particular position. And I will also say this, that I look at it as a livelihood. Yeah? And I see what Dinesh mentioned also, that about the ecosystem. I'm saying unless this country has a real move towards agroecological farming, we are in extremely serious trouble. We already are. Third and last is this whole business of capital investment and the money to be made from agriculture. I say that there is incredible money to be made from agriculture. That incredible money is being made from agriculture, but not for the peasantry or those whose livelihoods are dependent on it, but by corporations, by the richest. Please, if you look at Forbes, Fortune 500 list, Fortune also has 100 companies list of the fastest growing companies by rate of profit and by total revenue. You will find that agri-business companies are right in the top 20 of those 100. In many years, like after the Arab Spring, which caused the Arab Spring in many ways, you'll find that after the 2008 Wall Street collapse, 4 out of the top 10 fastest growing companies in the world, 4 out of the top 10 were agri-business companies. There are unbelievable profits to be made in food. And that is what this battle is also over about. When you control food, you control a nation by its belly. So please, I mean, that battle, there is unbelievable money to be made for particular classes and particular sections. And we have to take that money out of the hands of the peasantry, squeeze it out of their livelihoods. And the third and last way in which that money is made is by gigantic subsidies of the state with public money to the corporate sector. That in the United States, there have been years in which the total subsidy on cotton has been greater than the total value of cotton output, like 2006. So I mean, there are lots of games to be played in seizing control of agriculture, which make it financially very desirable for the top few corporates in the world. Thank you.
I think, Ishita, possibly all the questions have been covered or something.
Yes, I think all the questions have been
But
covered.
can I make a request to the forum as well as the academicians? Can
Yes,
we
of
form
course.
Save Farmer, Save Nations committees?
Definitely.
Can you catalyze that particular process in West Bengal? And I
Yes,
think
Yes.
you precisely how should we discuss that? Sometime let us set up a group, a nucleating group.
Yes,
and that
we will be
nucleating
there.
group actually can be then the carrier or can the medium through which this particular initiative can be taken. Yeah.
Yes, of course, we are there. We are there.
Yeah.
We are there in the struggle. We are there with you, and we will be doing this because it's not as we started. It's not separate struggle at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 10 minutes to 9. Possibly
What are thanks?
we should.
Yeah.
Ishita, should we close now? Should we
Yeah,
close now?
there's a vote of thanks. Parthivo, there's a vote of thanks by joint platform.
Parthivo should be there. Who is?
Shugato, are you there?
Shugat.
Shugato, are you there?
Yes, Sugato is there.
Yes.
Shugato,
there.
I see
Yes.
Sugato. Yeah.
I am representing Joint Platform of Academicians here, which is an organization created just a year ago with the academicians of West Bengal. And the first convention of it happened sometime in February, March, which Dinesh attended. Actually, Dinesh gave a talk there. And I really want to thank all the speakers who enlightened us, including Ratanda, who was the coordinator. And the Joint Platform of Academicians had been talking about academics, and where we have actually used Comrade Synapse data that he showed about this digital partitioning that he mentioned in one of his previous talks. We have been using. But recent times we all realized that if we don't consider other struggles of the country, then just academics is not going to survive. So we supported the farm agitation. And in West Bengal, this question had been coming along various times. I mean, just now, today I talked with a farmer who sold a bag of paddy of 60 kilos at the price of 850 rupees, while the MSP offered is 1,153 rupees. But he sold it at 850. So the reality of West Bengal farmers had been a large part of them that they don't get the MSP even when it was officially there. So probably that's one reason. But Dinesh and Ratunda actually brought out a wonderful point. Dinesh pointed out why only that MSP is not important, why it's going to affect all of them. And this Synapse has been wonderful in all his analysis. So I thank the organizers, the other organizers. I thank all the speakers for really enlightening talks, presentations, and all the listeners, audiences who were there and enthusiastically asked the question. We hope to carry on this struggle, and from the part of West Bengal, we do have responsibilities to take it further. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Therefore, the session is closed now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.